Alright, Into Fangorn. Let's do this in the Lord of the Rings Living Card Game progression series with Pandem's playthroughs. We're going to finish off the third quest in the Ringmaker Deluxe box. Alright, so let's kick this off with 1A, which is Into the Woods. You've captured the Orc Captain Mugash in the woods above Isengard, but you make your way down the Methedras. Your captive escapes and flees east into Fangorn. Set up, add East Fangorn to the staging area and attach Mugash to location. Shuffle the encounter deck and reveal X cards where X is the number of players -1. Edge of the Fangorn is a 2/2 location. It's immune to player card effects with Forest, and if you travel it to it, search the encounter deck and discard the pile for a Huon enemy. 2 if you're playing 3 or more. Mugash is an Orc Uruk who's guarded, who you exhaust to a hero to claim and attach him to a hero. And if you do take damage, you have to discard Mugash. So he's guarded under that location. And then we reveal a card from the deck. And you can see when revealed here, I was looking at this because this either remove 1 time for the card in play or return the active location to the staging area. This technically whiffs because I am meant to reveal a card and I don't. So, yes, this is an interesting one. Yeah, revealed a card, and there could be because the time counter hasn't been enabled from 1B, which is you pursue Mugash into the woods with a time counter. Time 4, force after last time counter is removed from this stage, shuffle Mugash into the encounter deck and advance to stage 3. Players can't advance to stage 2 unless Mugash is attached to a hero. So, yes, that technically whiffs that encounter card, which is nice. So the same left-hand deck is supporting me here, Celeborn, Galadriel, and Haldir. So we know those cards. We're pretty familiar with that hand if you've been watching this series. And that deck is now supported by Eowyn, Frodo, and Merry. I tried this quest 4 or 5 times, and this has been the best combo. So Eowyn Spirit, 9/4/1/1/3, Noble Rohan, and you get to discard a card if you need to boost Spirit. Questing Frodo 7/2/1/2/2, and if he is damaged, you can cancel damage, increase your threat by the damage received. And then good old Tactics Pippin, which is 6/2/0/1 Hobbit, and he gets +1 attack for each Hobbit in play, and response when he participates in an attack that destroys someone, gets to ready up, which is nice. Right, so we start with 22 threat on the right hand side and 29 threat on the left hand side. So we shuffle the cards here. We'll speed this up a bit here 4 times, only because I shuffle the first hand and get no attachments. So that I get no Mirror and no Nenya, which means it's very hard to find what I need. So I decided to shuffle again, which I did, and I got that Nenya, Feigned Voices, which is fantastic, Nath Guide, Mirkwood Runner. Now, and Galadriel's Handmaiden, which is super. Now, in this deck, the Huon have Hinder. Hinder means when the ant attacks, it will attack and not use a shadow card or do combat damage. However, it will remove 1 progress for each Hinder in play, for each engaged Huon. So I probably don't need to Feign Voices in this scenario. I just kept the deck intact, because as I said before with on recent interview with Chad, that it helps me just power through this series for keeping some of the decks the same. So I've got a good hand on the right hand there. I've got 2 good meals, right, which is a fantastic start. And I got the Hardy, what is that one from the Hobbits? I got the Hardy, the Inspiration, which ends up being quite handy there. So those 2 good meals that I have will go on to Frodo and Merry, and I'll let you play an event for 2 less, which is pretty cool. So I put a good meal on Frodo and 1 on Pip. Or Merry, sorry. And then if that lets me not have to worry. So if I want to play Halfling Determination, and get the +2s, if I have something like that, I can do so. Now, the Light of Valinor is in this right-hand deck to put on to the left-hand side. If that's on to Galadriel or Celeborn or Haldir, I can. It's nice that I can put it onto a Noldor or Sylvan hero. I was going to take, on the right hand side, Merry. I was going to take Glorfindel, but I decided on not. I think the next deck I might add Caldara in as the Eowyn, to have Eowyn, Frodo, and Caldara, but it's getting ahead of myself. So I'll play Nenya on this left hand side. Oops, that's the wrong deck there. Wrong deck, wrong counter. So I pay the one there to put down Nenya. I realised I put Light of Valinor on Galadriel, which she can't quest, so therefore it's silly, but putting the questing onto Celeborn. The few times I play, I got location locked. There's a location in there that gives +1 to forest locations, and it starts to hurt when there's 2 or 3 in the area. I was questing for just enough or not enough. And if I don't get the quest before the 4 time counters are done, I end up losing Mugash into the deck, and it becomes a very hard scenario. So even though it's a 30 odd carded deck, it takes a bit of time. So I play Nenya onto Galadriel, which means it's pretty straightforward. The dagger went from Merry to Haldir, and I'm going to quest with everyone. There's no enemies, there's no risk about having everyone exhausted. There are a couple of conditions and treacheries that will impact us here, like flicking down a time counter and whatnot. But yeah, this should just involve me questing with everything. I will put Galadriel's thing onto Eowyn most times. I think once or twice I point to putting it onto Celeborn or someone else, but there's nothing here that lets you have to remove someone from the quest. So a quest pretty hard. I want to get the 9 on top of the Into the Woods straight away. So I draw my first one. So there you can see there's a tree, a dark-hearted Huon, which has Hinder, can't have attachments, and at the beginning of the refresh phase, the engaged player must increase their threat by 2. So you can see there, 2, 4, 4, 5, so there's tough trees, but they don't attack you because of the Hinder keyword. And you can see there, 34, 2, 3, 4, 6. So there's only 6 threat there in the staging area, so that's easy. So of the 17, 6 come off it, and 11 go on to get 9 against the quest, which is what we need. I have to travel that location, so you drop the first Huon. I'm sure someone will correct me. So I've got 2 deadly Huons now. Now these ones actually hurt because they have 3, damage to a character if they're engaged with you, and that's enough to kill the right hand in one attack, right? So they don't attack, but there are some forced effects that are nasty. And Frodo could survive it while I just crank my threat up, but yeah, not less than ideal. Now I decided to draw this one out of the staging area. For some reason, I thought this would be smart to do it. I think for the goal here of rushing the quest, like I could have kept him up there and had 6 in the staging area and just quest harder, but hey, that's alright. There's a few decisions you need to make. Because the idea of Hinder is, at least how I picture it, you're running through the forest and the trees are closing in around you. Thick branches are slowing down your progress. Hinder, removing 1 from each one. So that's how I see it. I think it's a fair way of viewing it. In the round, I should have attacked with Haldir here. I'll realise in a second I clean up that Haldir, given he didn't exhaust, should have attacked. And he's just going to do 1 damage. Because he has the dagger on and his lower engagement cost, he gets +2, so he hits 5 against 4. And I'll put 1 damage on the deadly Huon shortly. I realise that a bit of a thinking ahead too quickly. I've played this a few times, this scenario. So refresh up, I draw Mirror of Galadriel and then the Riddermark's Finest, which is not too bad. It gives me a bit of questing. I realised I could put a damage on there. I'm like, what am I doing? I don't get +2 because it's got 1 cost, 1 threat, so I put the 1 damage on to the Huon. Because you only get +2 when, yeah, you see the 5 from my hand there. I realise what I'm doing. And I get +2 for when the engagement cost is higher than yours. So this works well in Hobbit decks, those 2 blades. And you put double on Merry or something like that. The goal here is to put double on Haldir and try and just buff him up. They are restricted, so I didn't take any of the Elven blades like I did in the previous decks for this cycle. So the goal here is to remember that Celeborn gives +1 spirit, attack, and defense to the end of the round for any Sylvan ally you play. And Galadriel lets you commit that person you play that round to, to quest for free or without exhausting. So that means, like, if the Naythguide comes out, right, I can point to Haldir not exhausting, which I do. Naythguide comes out, Haldir doesn't exhaust a quest. Celeborn is getting the Light of Valinor because Sylvan, right? So that all of a sudden the entire left-hand side can quest. I'm getting +1, so Naythguide's questing for 2, Handmaiden's questing for 3. You can see that becomes a very nice way of questing all of a sudden for 5. And then you've got 3 from Celeborn, the extra from Galadriel because of the ring. and that very quickly helps us get Mugash from the edge of Fangorn quickly, because that's the tricky one. Is that a few times where I've had to swap the location or time ticker down, and then all of a sudden I've got 2 rounds to get him or 1 round to get him, and I'm playing on the back foot, or I don't have enough progress because of the trees engage me. I lose 3 or 4 progress on into the woods, and therefore we don't quite make it. And if he gets shuffled into the deck, it becomes a survival. And if you're choosing to engage when you have to choose who want to engage with, like the dark-hearted one, you're increasing your threat at a minimum on the right-hand side by 3. I'll have a couple of dark-hearted Huons, and I'm increasing my threat by 5 around, which becomes very quickly a challenge. Then we're hitting into that scenario where the deadly Huons are engaging, doing 3 damage per refresh phase each. And these things have 9, 10 health, depending on which one, which starts to be tricky to manage. Alright, so we're going to exhaust the elves. Heldy gets to come for free. I'll put the token on the bottom right, so as my playstyle I use the bottom right of the card to indicate, like in this deck, that I get to quest, I'm committed, but I'm not exhausted. Right. So you can see out there, bottom right for the elves and Heldy, because Heldy for the Nath Guide. And then I'm also setting Frodo, Eowyn, Merry, and the Riddermark's Finest, which helps. Given I haven't got a location in play, well, I suppose active location, I presume I can use the Riddermark's Finest on active location, but given it's immune to player effect, so I can't do that. That's why I choose to quest with it. So I commit to the quest here. I can see that I'm just making sure I can correctly. Okay, so I get turned around, which is remove 1 time from the tracker, or reveal another card. And I'm on 3, goes down to 2, we'll go down to 1 this turn, and I get Ancient Forest. Now, Ancient Forest while the Ancient Forest is a staging area, each forest location in the staging area gains +1 and +3 quest points. It doesn't stack. However, you can get very unlucky and take 2 different other areas out, and it all of a sudden becomes a bit challenging, and you get location locked, and it gets worse, right? So he's there requesting for 25 against a 7. So we easily put that there. It pumps up to 9. Because Celeborn did not exhaust to quest, he can exhaust to take Mugash. We do so, triggering the fact we get to move on 2A. So we rescued Mugash from the trees, but we sense the forest itself is seething with anger towards you. The thankless orc struggles against you, tree branches grasp at you. It's going to be hard fight to get out of Fangorn with your captive. So each player adds a Huon to the staging area, and we shuffle the deck. Time 4 to 2B is escape from Fangorn, 12 quest points, and after the last time counters are removed from this stage, shuffle Mugash into the deck and reveal 3A. If we manage to quest the whole thing, we win the game, which is nice. We cannot defeat this stage unless Mugash is attached to a hero as well. So you got to keep touching him. So in other words, here I can't let Celeborn take damage. I can't do deadly Huons. The only way to do direct damage to me, or a few other ways, but that's mainly it in this deck. So and it says I check the card here. It does not say pick 2 different Huon enemies. Each player searches in hand deck and discard pile for a Huon enemy, and adds it to the staging area. So I pick Dark-Hearted Huon. Okay, so that means, yes, we've just finished the quest phase, and we move to the travel phase. Which is not to travel. What I want is, I don't want to travel to the Ancient Forest because it's 2 versus 5, right? On the threat versus quest. So I decided to optionally engage 1 on the right-hand side there, and I want to engage on the left-hand side. I can take 5 threat a turn. I move from 25 to 30, right? I have threat reduction in this deck. I have a few pipes. I have, what's that card? It's an interesting card. I've not used it too often. Free to choose. After your threat is raised by an encounter card. Effect, reduce your threat by an equal amount. I've got also other ways to deal with threat there. So I'm okay. I've got Greetings to the Gladrum, and got a few cards. Elrond's Council, right? So I'm okay with a round or 2 of this. I technically have 4 rounds to finish this, of which I should have won anyway. So we currently have 0 on the quest progress. In the refresh phase, those 3 Huons don't take any progress off. Right, there's no hinder removing progress, which is nice. And I get another halfling determination here, which is pretty cool because you're going to watch something pretty special this turn. So what we can see here, I've already have one up. So the elves lose their +1, which is fine, but I still get quite a bit of control over what's going on here. Riddermark's Finest is there. I could do it against the Ancient Forest, but there's no need to. I think the +1 still will help. So now I have 2 Halfling Determination. This is one of the when I first played this game, one of my most favourite cards in the Hobbit deck. I have the quest points to play the Mirkwood Runner here. Quest points, the resource points through 2 on Haldir and 1 on Galadriel. I have no Olorian, so I don't get any -1 to the cost. So I play, because of Nenya, I get Lore. I can play the Mirkwood Runner. I'm going to commit the Mirkwood Runner, gets +2 and doesn't have to exhaust the quest. Celeborn, Galadriel, Haldir, Handmaiden, Nathguide, Riddermark's Finest, Eowyn, Frodo, Merry. Everyone's coming along for this, right? I'm umming and ahhing who I put it on, right? I put it on to Celeborn because he's not going to take damage, right? Or maybe I point to who I put it on, I believe. And if I don't, I should, right? But the idea is that it's more Dwarrowdolf, so you have to worry about you have to remove people from quests. Or if you're questing for just enough, you make sure you put it on. Okay, you don't have to quest to remove from the quest, right? So you don't lose the buff of Galadriel. Because losing that plus, if I lose Eowyn, losing 8 quest points is quite a lot. So I add them there, which all of a sudden sees me quest for quite a lot. This is pretty, most spirit decks are pretty OP, but I play here, I have 2 tactics resources, so I play half of the Determination twice. So then the phase, I get an additional +4. So now I'm questing for 27 against 7. I need 12 progress to get out of the forest. Even with Hinder, Hinder happens in the refresh phase, or the combat phase anyway, not the quest phase. Doesn't matter. And even if it did happen right now, it wouldn't matter here. So you can see here, each Huron enemy engaged with you makes an attack. So those 3 make an attack. There's nothing from the dark, the forest malice. So it's already on 0. It doesn't do anything, it doesn't remove anything, you don't go negative. So essentially whiffs. So essentially against 8 progress, I'm questing for 27. So, it's actually +2 because of the forest. So it's 10 against 27, makes 17 progress, and that is a win. So that is after my 4th play, the escape from Fangorn. It was a bit easier than I expected this time on the recording. It's funny how when you start recording, things become a bit easier. Confirming here that you just need to get out, and I do absolutely get out. That's happy days on that quest. 17 progress in the single turn there. So we got out with Mugash. That's the end of the APs end of the deluxe box, which saw To Catch an Orc probably being the trickiest one. And next up we'll have the Dunlin Trap. Alright, see you soon.